horror fans, we're here. This is the inaugural episode on location. I'm Dave Solo, and this is Universal Horror Unleashed, and I am joined by horror royalty, if you will, an icon himself. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the VP of Art and Design for Entertainment, Mr. TJ Mannarino. How are you, sir?
I am great. Great to have you out here. This is an exciting time, not only for us, but I think definitely for your audience, and love to have fun talking about this today.
It's unbelievable. When I walk through the door, I've seen photos, I've seen some video that's already come out. Nothing prepared me for what I saw. This is probably the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Sorry, kids. Sorry, everybody at home. It could be the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. How are you feeling when you're walking in the door?
Oh, well, it's a dream come true. As I said, for a lot of us like yourself and others who have had made horror a lot of their life, to be able to have a place that gives you a year-round experience for people to kind of really immerse themselves in horror for as long as they want, really was something you envisioned, thought about, maybe hoped for. But for Universal to really jump off and make this happen, make it a reality, I think it's exciting for us, the project team, everybody involved in it. And now that we see it, come to life, it is a dream come true.
Well, and we talked a lot in the Discover Universal podcast, kind of about the beginnings and the inner workings of stuff. What I do, I think, a little bit differently is I want to learn a little bit more about you, and I want to tell everybody at home rather, watching about you.
What I love about horror is the audience. The audience really, you find each other through unique type of experiences like this. And it's what's fun about it is that when you start talking to each other, even though you never met, you feel like you've known each other for years
Right.
because you share not only the similarities to the unique type of aspects of horror, but most of us all have the very familiar background with the films that we like, the characters that we love. And so it feels like I haven't met you before, but I've known you for years.
Sure. And I'm always lingering
Oh, yeah.
somewhere around Universal Orlando Resort. But again, back to the story of you.
Yeah.
I want to know where you're from. Oh, and I want to know specifically, like, what kind of kid were you?
Well, interesting. It's funny because, like I said, as we talk to a lot of our similar type of fans, at the same time, people who love horror, most of us all grew up either watching the same type of programs. And yes, would you ever believe I grew up on Universal Classic Monsters?
Right.
Of course. That was a lot of what me and my dad shared as fun after hours, late night movies. Fan of the event of the celebration of just Halloween. Trick or treating was fun, but for me, it was always about how do I scare people? How do we create haunted houses? So I was less about more behind the scenes than really in front of the camera, if you want to call it that, or in front of the audience. So it was always the one who, when anytime that I was involved in elementary schools, and we're like, oh, we want to do something for the fall. And I was like, how about a haunted house? Can we do a haunted house? And yes, and that love kept growing, and again, it became kind of more of a side hustle. It was something I enjoyed doing, and it really at that time was more still in the charity environment. It really hadn't moved to the business side yet of it. And so I just kept, getting more and more involved when I could, when I wasn't either doing film or TV or other type of work. And then again, as it grew and became this mammoth of an celebration and a business, it's been again like this building is probably the pinnacle of seeing how far Halloween has come from not only just a business, but just an activity that an audience has become such not only a fan of and wants more and more of it. It now has shown that you can actually do something like this and make it year round and make it, like I said, something that people are going to love and want to come and do.
Absolutely. And that's something to be proud of.
Yes.
But I want to touch on something that you said when you talked about as a kid, loving it, sharing the joy of horror with your dad, kind of being the kid that was like, haunted house time.
Yeah.
What was the moment in your life where the switch flipped and it was, maybe I could do this for a living for the rest of my life?
Well, it's interesting because that came late.
Hmm.
So for me, as I was going through mostly elementary and high school, I was very focused on wanting to do architecture, design, not on the theatrical side, not on the haunted house side. It was more just on the business, commercial real estate, that type of stuff.
Okay.
Got involved in entertainment in college. And at that time, too, I also recognized I had moved from up north to south. I was living in Gainesville, going to University of Florida. and there was not a haunt community at all. And coming from up north, using university, I was went to school in Maryland, and Maryland had a lot of well-known haunts within the industry during the season. And so when I moved to Florida, I was like, this is an opportunity that nobody is really showcasing haunted houses. And I actually built a house for the city of Gainesville for 3 years when I was in Gainesville.
Oh, nice.
It was a charity function event and stuff like that, brought up the community. We even did a grand coffin opening ceremony as our opening moment with the mayor
Nice.
of Gainesville. Yeah, and it was fascinating to watch not only how much that style of entertainment really energized the community, but also how much there really wasn't a lot out there,
Mm,
and how much could we as a group, help fill that void. And then I've just watched that kind of progress over time. So that was in the late, or no, early 80s when we did this. And I progressed doing other haunted houses around the country. And it wasn't surprisingly until I was doing film and TV. And again, completely separate. I was doing kids film and TV.
sure.
So it was interesting to watch. Again, what I would do is during the season, I would usually go find a little side hustle, go do a haunt. I did a haunt in Navy Pier and one in Atlanta
Ah,
and stuff,
Chicago.
and jumped around. But it was funny because we had hit a slow period in production.
Mm,
And this is in Orlando. And most of us now recognize, like in the last few years, there was a writer strike. Well, this was back in about 96, was one of the early writer strikes, and most of production in Orlando shut down. And I was freelancing, so I was like, I got to go find some other work. And I knew Universal at the time. It was like in their fourth or fifth year, again, getting this event very small up on its feet.
sure.
And I was like, well, let me pop over and see if I might have an opportunity to work with them. And so they hired me as a contractor.
Mm,
And so in the early versions of Halloween Horror Nights, it was all contractor based. They had started with a small entertainment group that was special events. It wasn't even part of the entertainment. It was kind of seen as a special event they put on for the season
mm,
with one haunted house. Uh, and then it grew over time. And so when I came in, I thought I'd do this for a year or two, like I was doing my other gigs, and jump back to production. Well, in the second year, the company said, "Do you want to stay and be part of the entertainment team?" I was the single designer uh, on this event, and at the same time, we really weren't doing any other major events yet within the parks. And I said, "Sure." I thought, like most freelancers, we'll do this for a few years. We'll continue not only this fun type of work, but see what other things come to fruition later. I never thought at that point this would be a career. This would grow into, again, now watching Halloween Horror Nights grow from not only the Orlando park, but back in Hollywood, then Japan, Singapore, now in Beijing.
right.
And then when I got the call about this project, about again, uh, realized at that point almost that how much horror has become a business, how much has it become a year-round type of activity that people enjoy. It no longer lives in that kind of small window of the fall.
Right.
And now going to either conventions, having the opportunity to talk to people like yourself, and other types of horror initiative, more kind of built, products, is watching that this is something that really is now, it's not only mainstream, it really is a growing business, and really the ceiling, I don't even know where that is.
Right.
Yeah.
From crab cakes to blood and guts. It's like that could be the title of your autobiography. But I love it, and I love Maryland as well.
Ah,
It's a great place. So all good stuff comes out of Maryland. Let's switch gears to Halloween Horror Nights. I know this experience obviously is adjacent, but
mhm.
Halloween Horror Nights is a big part of your past, your history. It's the reason why I'm actually sitting here because that was the launching pad. I just we can't get too deep into it because I'd have you here forever. But the thing on my mind coming in here today was I want to know your favorite projects, your favorite maze your house that you worked on.
Well, it's interesting because, and you've probably heard this multiple times with the people you've talked to. It's always hard to pick your favorite, and because what I've always loved about what we've been able to do at the parks has been grow and learn.
Mm,
Because we change it every year, we have the opportunity to take what we find is successful with our audience and grow that. and then find things that maybe don't hit the mark and adjust and change. Um, and so that change every year has made us more and more focused on what we recognize our audience loves about the product, the experience, the type of characters and environments that we bring to life. And we capture that and we keep saying, okay, this is a piece that we have to continue to do to be successful. But where can we expand to something new? Where can we take something that maybe isn't, 100%, maybe it's 50%. We want to get it to 100%.
Mm.
And, again, we do say a lot of us who've been involved with the product for some years, there's probably over 200 haunted houses that we've designed. And because we've designed so many different type of experiences, it's given us as storytellers and creators a great, bag of tricks that we've tested and refined and said, okay, this is what we know works. So for that, all of those type of reasons, like I said, every time you build a house, it grows and becomes better.
Sure.
And I kind of equate it to like if I was to ask you, what was your favorite computer?
Of
That
course.
at the time it was the highest, it was the best built type of technology that you had, that you were given, that you knew about.
Sure.
But then 2 years later, suddenly there's a better market, there's a faster machine, it has more bells and whistles. And I look at haunted house design and horror experiences like that. They've grown and built on the past
Mm.
to make them better and more unique. This now, if you say what was some of the best environments, characters, I can kind of tell you, well, there's some ones I love.
Yeah.
I again grow up, like I said, in the '80s. So all of those '80 classic films and stuff. We did a house some years ago, and what I loved about it is we were able to take the story and the brand, but expand it. We did a house that was Poltergeist.
Oh yeah.
And most people I talked to also felt like it was a very strong house. And what I loved about it was that in the film, everybody recognizes that, Carol Ann is taken to the other side, into the light.
Right.
And the whole thing is about don't walk into the light. Well, we said, what if you had to walk into the light? What does it look like? What happens on the other side? And we took that premise and brought all of the unique characters and monsters and spirits that you got glimpses of that came through those doorways, through the closet, from underneath the bed, and threw you into their environments, and then had to fight with them your way out. Again, it was fascinating because the reactions that we saw, the environments that we were able to create, and at the same time, that kind of still staying true to that story, I thought hit on all three. And the success of it, people loved about it. They talked about it. And then I walked away going, because I loved that brand so much and that story, is that why, this was something that well, not only was a dream come true at that point,
Right.
but also was fun to be able to play within those characters and those stories.
It was a beautiful house. And I know that sometimes the internet trolls don't love when I use the word beautiful to talk about horror, but it was a beautiful house and I
Hell yeah.
absolutely loved it. And it was one, you said something interesting too. Is there one that didn't hit the mark according to like surveys or
Yeah.
whatnot that you were like, no, it hit the mark?
It's interesting because when you ask a lot of the creative team what their favorite is, um, I usually answer back, there's different types of styles of experiences. If you ask me over the last few years, what was probably the best designed house?
Hmm.
I'll have a different answer to what maybe is one that's maybe the scariest house, or what one maybe provides the most unique characters. And because I think when people experience this style of entertainment, it hits on different types of levels. And it's fun when you start talking to like yourself. I'll ask you a few questions. When you go through a haunted house,
Yeah.
what do you feel you respond or react most to?
It's hard to get super scared anymore. So I
Mhm.
really look for the detail, the beauty in the detail that that's exactly what it would look like.
Yeah,
Or that's exactly what it looked like in the IP, for example.
which is great because we recognize our audience comes to these type of experiences with different things that they're either looking for, things that, and the fun thing about this on things that people aren't looking for because they don't want to see the scare,
Yeah,
they don't want to see the threat, they want to kind of just get through it as fast as they possibly can.
sure.
And so as designers, we have kind of gathered those kind of knowledge and said, well, how do we make sure we're providing that to this wide range of audience and make sure they have the detail of story, how they have unique characters. how they have environments that change. You know, what we recognized and we built this place to kind of cue off of some of those big learnings, which is when people go through a haunted experience, again, their attention span is quite short for a bunch of different reasons.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, we've learned that how do we have to tell our story has to come in very short but very high contrast environments. Because at that point, when you make your way to the end, when you think back what you saw glimpses of, either in the lighting or what you might saw and diverted your eyes because you either got scared or you were moving through the room really quickly, was what we recognize is that we have to build a lot of content within a small space because as you move through it, we want you to feel like you not only have gotten a lot to react to, but at the same time, you usually come in a group, which we also recognize.
Mm.
And in that group setting, you want to make sure everybody that goes through these experiences walks away with something that they remember. And then it becomes the dialogue and the conversation you have afterwards. And that's the thing that we have really built all of our stories behind. And this space was the foundation of that. When we first start talking about what do we want to do now in a year round environment, we want to make sure that we give all of those things. We want to make sure that that building itself has a ton of content that you're not only able to access, experience with your friends, guests, and others, but we also want to give you a place that was also unique. Was that when you're done, maybe walking through one of the attractions, you have a bar location or a social space that you can come together quickly
Mm.
and talk about, oh my God, did you just see that? And oh, you know, Junior over here, he was laughing and screaming in 5 seconds ago. And those types of shared moments we recognize is what really people love about this style of experience entertainment because it becomes that kind of, you know, thing that you talk a lot about because it really was something that as a group you kind of did together. You forged ahead through what might be considered to be, you know, scary, threatening, or even just sense of mystery
Yeah.
to discover. And I think what we found is that those types of bonds that you make within your group are things that you share not only even immediately afterwards, you'll talk about it, you know, sometime past and like again, like that, you know, about what was your favorite time and how in Horror Nights. You have a memorable moment yourself?
Oh, I have a laundry list. We'd be here all
Ah,
day.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, selfishly, it was when I got to participate
Ah,
in the hive.
there you go.
Shout out to the hive. So but I guess overall, it's feeling like you're a part of it as
Yes.
opposed to just a spectator.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that, you know, that we've recognized for years for this style of experience is that as much as, you know, now there's a major movement for immersive, you know, entertainment and ways to bring your audiences into the show itself, the story, the characters. Haunted houses for the longest time have been that.
Yeah.
In some aspects, it is, you know, it's one of those things that we've always said is not watching a film, it's actually throwing you into the middle of it. You
Exactly.
know, it's the stories and the characters that now envelop your space, and you have to figure out through your path how to, you know, get out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's been always that. It was, you know, but for us here, we've also felt how do we give our opportunities for our guests to feel even more of the story? And that's what we got excited about for this project. This project was built 100% around not only taking all the things that we've learned from not only the films that our picture group does, but to the parks that we do in the way of this live setting and the experience that you physically walk through. But we also said, you know what, because you have more time here, because of the length of stay, or at least the time that the building is now here, because most of the time you have a limited window in the fall.
Right.
We said, why don't we give our audience more time with our character, more time with the stories, and more times with those environments that you have gotten so used to being just very momentary? And what we've seen in our short run right now in our preview is that these are doing exactly what we hope for. It is giving a whole new layer to horror experiences that our guests have never experienced before. And we're excited about because we want to deliver that next level and that thing that you can't get anyplace else. And those ways to be able to sit down and talk to a character.
Right. Right.
Yes, who talks about their world as being a real place. This is what we call this shadow world you've entered. And now that you're here and for the length of stay that you basically visit, you can stay in that world. And the characters with the drinks that you get, with the food that you eat, keeps saying that you're in this strange place and it's real for the time that you're here. And the characters have a life and they have interaction with other characters. And
Yeah.
it really becomes a kind of, like I said, a diverse type of space that for horror aficionados and or groups who come just to be part of it, I think they're going to walk away with something to talk a lot about.
Absolutely. I think Universal Horror Unleashed is ultimate immersion for groups. Even by yourself, I'd like to come by myself. It's kind of killing me that that's all happening out there right now. It's you, so I'm good. But just every single sense, and we'll talk about that in a second. And
Yeah.
again, I would love to keep you here all night. I can't.
Ah,
So we're gonna move on to a couple different things. Okay, you ready for this?
yes.
I'm going to go through what guests can experience at Universal Horror Unleashed, each one by one. And I just want one or two sentences of
Yeah.
you describing it and describing why folks are just going to love it to death. Okay. First up, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw it's a classic. For us to be able to bring a period piece into the building and represent something that's really been a part of horror for over 50 years.
Right.
And that's also one of those houses that really touches on a certain style of horror. It has more extreme, it has more visual gore to it, if you want to call it that. And that's something we recognize is that every attraction looks at horror a little bit differently. So we feel that we hit everybody's type and style of experience that they want.
Fantastic. The Exorcist Believer.
Exorcist believer. Now this takes us into this kind of paranormal world,
Mm.
which is interesting because again, if you follow horror, horror changes its storytelling throughout the years. And this was a recent film by Blumhouse that we got excited about to be able to kind of represent as a physical walkthrough. And that's something that really is it touches on people a little differently than Texas does. And we know that. And that's why we think it's a great combination to the other buildings and the other brands that we have.
Universal Monsters.
First of all, you cannot do a permanent Halloween
You cannot.
experience with Universal without really talking about what we felt put horror on the map. We're excited to be, celebrating 100 years. For us, you know, uh, Phantom of the Opera, released in 1925. And we're saying that unleashed horror onto an unsuspecting public back then. And then what followed was this wonderful list of characters of Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolf. And we feel we're kind of representing kind of that rebirth of having a permanent home of horror. And 100 years later, 2025, hence why the warehouse is called Warehouse 25. And
Hey.
so that's kind of our tie to saying, you know what? Yes, we could never imagine a space like this without thinking about where it all started. And those Universal monsters make it that.
Best choice in the world. Uh, Scarecrow the Reaping.
Scarecrow. Well,
Hey.
and again, with your wonderful wealth of history and knowledge of horror and Halloween Horror Nights, that was another thing that we looked at. We said there's great stories out there and there's great brands that we love always associating with. And Orlando has had the opportunity for many, many years to create our own characters and our own brands in lots of aspects. And Scarecrow is one of those brands that has resonated not only with the Orlando park, but it recently showed in stories in Hollywood and was also very, very successful there. So for us, we felt this was a great mix to bring into this building because it gave us the opportunity to kind of give our audience something that they know. If they're familiar fans of Universal Monsters or The Exorcist, that's stuff they've seen, they've experienced through either film or TVs. But Scarecrow is a unique animal because it's our own story, it's our own characters, and it gives you something to kind of really find as a new story that you might not know that you could come to love. And we have fans and audiences that have loved Scarecrow for many, many years because it's been around since 2017.
Yeah.
And so that's why we were excited about bringing it here again. A great mix of content that we feel really becomes your experience.
Now, let's just talk themed entertainment areas. There are a few of them: Dead
Yeah.
Storage, Kill Vault, Prop Graveyard, Jack's Alley.
Yes.
Tell us about these.
Well, these are things that we also felt was critical to the experience, which is they tell unique stories about the different styles of horror, and it provides you characters like we've talked a little bit about that you have depth of content that you can interact with. As you move through the space, you might find yourself not wanting to explore all of the haunted houses. You might want to find yourself sitting down at one of the large bars. There's a place called the Boiler Bar. And what we've recognized in our experience is that there's people who love to feel like I'm going to be the person first in line with my group. I'm going to lead you through all of the horror, which I would assume that's probably you. Yes.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It depends.
Okay. But there's people within your group who are like, I'm going to just stand over here and I don't want to be so in the front.
Right.
I want to be in the back and I want to watch this experience happen and unfold. And so these entertainment areas are built for that. It's built for you to step back maybe a little bit, watch the experience around you happening, evolving, in some aspects, kind of developing as people move through the space, but you're in the middle of it. You're dead in the center of it. And that's what we've also seen in our parks is that there is this audience that loves to be a part of it, but just off to the side. And we've provided, again, the boiler bar to do that. Jack's Alley, which is another bar experience, built is in Jack's world. If you want to immerse yourself in one world, and Jack, who better to live in this chaotic world with him and Chance, you can do that. And you can place yourself in their world and watch the various show elements that happen around you, interact with them and what we call the maniacs, and that's another space that's different than the boiler bar. And then there's the last place that we have is called Premiere House, which showcases again, current horror and future. So what we said is the building represents our 100 years of history, and we've given you a lot of different examples of what that looks like. But at the same time, we know horror doesn't stand still; horror keeps growing, and Premiere House gives you that. It gives us a chance for us to showcase our brands with Blumhouse and what new films are coming out within the given year and how can we showcase films and props and elements of those things. And even we've talked about the potential of it. Can we do meet and greet with some of the cast members, filmmakers, and ways to get more interaction and connection to horror itself?
Everything sounds amazing. I can't wait to go experience it. I'm going to save some of the details for Nate too, because I know we
Ah,
got him. We want people to keep coming back and watching.
yeah.
Although people are going to be pre-saving that episode with Nate, the guy he is. Man, I can't wait to get him in this chair. But before I let you go,
Yes.
got a couple more things to do here. One is calls from the public, some fan questions.
Ah,
I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. If
okay.
it makes the cut, awesome. If it doesn't, then nobody ever heard me say this. Uh, will there be any seasonal offerings here at Universal Horror Unleashed?
Yes. Now, like the event, I'll be honest with you, with my history with the event has been we do an amazing job to listen to our audience. We do a lot of surveys, not only, but we also love to be out in the event, love listening and hearing from them directly when they come out of the attractions and ask them, what do they like? What do they want more of? And I think this place has that same model. It is built to listen to what we know we need to do. And then some of that is we already have thought about, we have seasonal content we're looking at. When those come about, how they evolve, I think is listening to our audience and figuring out when do they need stuff for us and what we want to do. But we definitely feel like this building, like our parks and like our films, has to continue to grow and evolve because that's what makes horror not only unique, but also what we think becomes a demand. You have to figure out, I want to get there and see this. And for us to be able to change it gives you that reason of what you want to come back for.
So it's a great
Yeah.
answer, right?
Yeah.
No spoilers, but it's a good answer. Next question,
Yes.
maybe even more controversial.
Okay.
Will the houses change ever? How
Ye-
frequently?
Frequently. Again, all those questions, yes. I would say that's the intent. Our intent is these spaces that we've created are built in a way to be able to give a variety and change on a calendar that we haven't set yet. So that's why I'm saying don't expect them to follow what we do in the parks because we see this is a different product. This product looks to answer different questions, to have different types of ways to engage our audience to come back.
Sure.
Where the park has a very set calendar time frame because of the nature of how it lives and goes away and comes back. This has a different product. And so that's why I think over the next 6 months, we're going to be learning and listening. And then that's when we're going to probably start to build what we feel is the next evolution of this space and other spaces. Because I know we have a space we're building in Chicago.
Absolutely.
And so those things are things that we're going to take a lot of input and information, but the goal is yes, there is going to be change. And at what time, those are things that we'll be able to talk about later.
Fantastic. Last fan question before I run you through the gauntlet to
Yeah.
wrap us up. I'm someone who buys a ticket. How long can I expect to be here? How long can I expect the entire experience to take for me? And I know that's really loose terms, but it's come up more than once.
It's interesting because again, now like anything, we start with a premise in our mind and we start to even set some parameters. We think, well, what do we have to offer? What do we feel has enough content, richness of story that keep you engaged for a period of time? Our initial thoughts was 2 hours. We think this is a space 2+ hours that we feel has enough time that you involve yourself through the stories of the different attractions, to the bar offerings and food opportunities, to either meet and greets and or show up, places that we have within the building. And yes, I think that gives everybody something that they can experience. They don't feel like they're rushed.
Right.
And at the same time, if you want to stay 6 hours, you can stay 6 hours.
You heard it here
Some of
first.
us, some of us would do that. Yeah, like I said,
Open to
I have
close.
no problems. When we first started talking about this, me and Nate, who you're going to talk to, we said we could pop ourselves down here and just have a nice drink for quite some time and feel quite comfortable.
Absolutely.
And we have done that through a lot of our testings and previews and stuff like that. And it has such a great vibe from a horror environment for people who love horror as much as we do.
Right.
This is a place you feel comfortable. This is a place you feel like kind of like home. It's almost like a family reunion. Like it's a place you come and you're like, yeah, I could stay here for some time. And that's the thing we're excited about because you can stay as long as you want. But we know people have things to do, but we think there's enough content here that you can spend that time.
I felt very at home when I walked in. So what
Oh,
does that
good.
say about me? I don't.
You're
I don't know.
perfect.
Yeah.
You're
The other thing
perfect.
too is you're going to want to come back
Yes.
over and over because no 2 days or nights are going to be the same. So you want to come back. So finally, again, before I let you go, this is the gauntlet. We're going to do a little word association first. So
Okay.
just one word answer,
Yes.
and I'm going to run you through the senses because Universal Horror Unleashed is all about tickling every single one of those senses. So I'm going to go through each one as it relates to Universal Horror Unleashed. I want you to give me that word. Are you ready?
Yes. Yes.
They're out of, I don't know what order people usually talk about
That's okay.
senses, but this is the Dave Solo order.
Okay.
Sight,
Horrifying.
smell,
Disgusting.
touch.
That's a tough one because we don't touch anybody. I would say emotionally.
This guy.
Mm.
Taste.
Tantalizing.
Finally, hear.
It is a cacophony.
Love that word.
Yes, well,
It's a
again,
great
it's a mix. You know what? The thing that I love, and you bring definitely to the table, is that it's such a diverse audience that experiences this, and by designers we know that. And our goal has always been is how do we provide so many different of all of those senses, different offerings, so everybody who comes and experiences, uh, the fun question we love to ask is at the end of their night, we say, what is your favorite memory? And everybody will give you a different memory. And we feel when we hear that, that's success because we know it's personal, it's unique to them. And if they feel like something, connected with them in a level of food or sight, sounds, experiences, characters that they go talk about, then we feel like we've done our job as storytellers and we've given everybody in that group something that they can not only remember, but definitely share with others. And that our hope is that that's what's really going to make this place, what it is.
Couple more
Yes.
relating to some of the amazing things that you will see and smell here at Universal Horror Unleashed. Hypothetical question.
Yes.
You have been captured. You are in the Sawyer family home. How are you going to escape?
Keep moving forward because don't look back because usually behind you is one family member who is going to make you dinner.
This guy's a pro. Yeah, I think you're going to do the rest of the show,
No,
right?
no,
I'm
no,
leaving
no.
and you're going to host the rest of the show.
You're amazing.
Last one. The Universal monsters are near and dear to my heart.
Yes.
You could take one Universal monster to hang out with. Maybe you're going to shoot some pool. Maybe you'll go swimming. I don't know. Who's your Universal monster buddy?
Ooh. I'll be honest with you. I've always loved all of them. I haven't been affectionately fond of the mummy.
Mm.
The mummy, I think, is he is stoic in lots of aspects, but carries a big punch. And I think this house, I think we did him well. I
Great.
think it is one of the scariest rooms is the mummy experience in this house. So if you say hi to him, he's a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a friend to just hang out, be a little quiet,
Yeah.
be covered in bandages. Fantastic. I love the answer. I said, TJ, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. I can't wait to see you out there. I can't wait to experience
Man,
everything from
I
this
can't
house.
wait to get you out there because I
Yeah.
definitely want to see your thoughts and your reactions. Because again, that's what we love. We love seeing our audience have fun.
If fun will be had. If I'm not tantalized, never coming back. So he guarantees it.
That's right.
TJ, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And everyone at home, stay tuned. Plenty more episodes coming your way. Again, I'm Dave Solo, and this is Universal Horror Unleashed.